Welcome back to another edition of the Knight Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie O'Leary. Big time commitment this weekend. Jaylen McGill, the four-star running back out of South Carolina, made his commitment live in the building from MSG to the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. This is one that we had been alluding to for a bit, but he is fully in the fold. We'll talk about him, how his commitment came together, what he brings as a player. We'll give you some other recruiting updates on some of Rutgers' top targets. Another four-star might be on the way. We'll get into that. We'll talk about the basketball performance and where the season stands. And we'll also sprinkle in a little wrestling. Scott Goodell gets his top 10 victory for the first time in a dual match since 2019. So huge congrats to Goody and the wrestling program. But first, this podcast is presented to you once again by Knight and Day Apparel. Hey, Rutgers fans, get ready to slam dunk your style with Knight and Day Apparel. Cheer on your Scarlet Knights this basketball season in our exclusive Rutgers gear. From trend-setting designs to lifestyle garments, we've got you covered with everything you need to support your team in comfort and flair. Stand out in the crowd and show your passion for Rutgers basketball with designs that celebrate every dribble, dunk, and victory. Use our promo code Rutgers Rivals to get 10% off your purchase. Don't wait. Head to Knight and Day Apparel today and gear up for game day. Go Knights. This podcast is also presented to you by BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live bets, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds from everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC, head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for a welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. So Jaylen McGill is a name that kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, not in the sense that the player came out of nowhere, but Rutgers' involvement with him seemed to only churn up in the last month or so. Talk about how this commitment came together for Rutgers, and then we'll get into him as a player.
Yeah, McGill has been to campus a couple times already. He was on campus for the first time for the July barbecue event that they have at the end of every July. And after that, he came back to campus for a visit for a game day trip, and I got to check out the team. I think the Washington game was a blackout, if I remember. I don't even the season's such a blur at this point.
Washington was the blackout. Yep.
Okay, so he was at that game as well. And then just this past spring, or I shouldn't say this past spring, just not even spring yet. 3 weeks ago, Demir Shaw and assistant running backs coach Stephen Thames. Because we have to start talking about the assistants of the assistants because now they're leaving the program too. So, but we'll get to that.
Not many college teams can say they have a former NFL wide receiver coach as their assistant wide receiver coach. We're talking about John Perry, who left for Texas A&M, but and that guy he was the wide receiver coach of the Texans when DeAndre Hopkins set all his career records. So just want to put that out there.
Yeah, but anyway, Steve Thames, the assistant running backs coach, and Demir Shaw went down to South Carolina, had an in-home with him. Shiano took the chopper to his high school recently, and we know that's kind of a signal that you're a pretty serious target for Rutgers. So they just kept building that relationship, building it, and he told us right after that in-home that he wants to come back to campus soon, and lo and behold, he did it this past weekend, and I guess technically was at campus for at least a couple hours before going to New York City and MSG and all that, and just kind of sealed the deal there. The parents came with him, and that's Shiano's just building relationships. Demir Shaw continues to prove that he's probably the best recruiter on the staff at this point. I don't think there's really a question anymore.
Yeah, big shout out to him because not only is he, the running back recruiter, but he is like the Southeastern PA, South Jersey recruiter for them. Demir Shaw is really just, as a coach and as a recruiter, shown that he's got it. Whatever it is, he's got it on both the X's and O's and the recruiting front.
Yep. Yeah, he continues to prove that, like I said before, I think he's probably your best recruiter at this point. You could debate that probably a little bit with like Dave Brock, who has a proven track record. Mark Orphe's been pretty good. Yeah, I'd probably say it's between those three, to be honest with you. Kirk's a weird one because he only recruits quarterbacks, but he's done a pretty good job so far between Serace, between Ethan, of course. But anyway, yeah, Jaylen McGill is a hell of a get, and they beat out several programs. Like, this is a kid that, like, everyone always asks, are those offers committable? Are they committable? Yeah, like South Carolina, he was like damn near the top of their board. Clemson, he was right there at the top of their board. Alabama, I don't think he was at the top of their board, but he was definitely up there for them. This is a really talented kid.
Yeah, that was something that was interesting. We talked about before the pod, how you were talking to some people in the Southeast, we'll say, who cover recruiting, and they're like, wow, Rutgers from McGill? Because if you look at where he's visited, this is always a good indicator for me of like who's serious in his recruitment. Places he's visited: Clemson, Florida State, Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia Tech. And that's what we have listed in our database. But, multiple visits to South Carolina, multiple visits to Georgia, multiple visits to Rutgers. He also visited Alabama. Like, this is a kid that he, like you said, it wasn't like the token offer you see sometimes, and the home state school could kind of live without the guy. Like, not to throw dirt on Gavin, but when Gavin Wimsatt committed to Rutgers over Kentucky had higher QBs on their board, and they got a QB that they liked more. But this is not the case. This is a kid who, if he wanted to go to South Carolina today or Clemson today, he could.
Yeah. No, it's crazy because this is like you just mentioned. I was talking to someone, and they're just like, I swore it was going to be South Carolina. Like, and it's like, yeah, no, I don't. Rutgers just does a really good job of building relationships. Number one, and that's the Demir Shaw connection. And then on top of it, it's such an easy sell for running backs. Hey, you want to come to an offense that we're going to run the ball 60-70% of the time? Oh yeah. I know, mind you, he didn't play a ton last night, but Isaiah Pacheco for the Chiefs, who's going to be in his third Super Bowl in his 3 seasons.
Yep,
it's a pretty damn good selling point. Kyle Monangai, who didn't have a single fumble in 4 years, 4 and 5 years, I forget, 4 years. Yeah,
4 years.
4 years. And on top of that, he's going to get drafted this year. Like, and he led the Big Ten, one of the better in the Big Ten. We're going to protect for you up front. We just need a good running back, and it's just such an easy selling point. And you can kind of see that in the one clip that we posted a couple weeks ago with Demir Shaw's in-home visit for Jaylen McGill. There's a little like PowerPoint they show, and it's like running back friendly offense, and it's just right there. Like, it's just an easy sell. Kirk's offense, you could probably land any running back in the country you really wanted to.
Yeah, totally agree. He's been it's the way that they want to play, and they always have wanted to play through establishing the run first and foremost. And they got some talent in the room now. You got the transfer in TJ Campbell, who's obviously only there for 1 year, but 4-star Antoine Raymond. You got this 4-star Jaylen McGill. It's the kind of player too that you want to land one running back a class, because ideally you don't necessarily want to just have the one guy. Like, it was nice to have Kyle Monangai, and we'd take that any day of the week. But I think if you gave the coaches truth serum, I think they'd rather have 2 or 3 guys they can rotate in and be about the same level of talent, because that makes it so much harder to stop a guy in like the fourth quarter when you really need those extra yards, when you have fresh legs. And Kyle was just so good at just wearing teams away, and his conditioning was elite. Like, he was not getting tired, and you saw that in fourth quarters, as the last 2 years when he was the lead back. So talk about Jaylen McGill as a player. What are some of the things he does well? Any player comps you have for him, or things you've heard from analysts about him?
That's a tough one. I hate doing player comps personally, just because it's just such a crapshoot. Like, you could just throw out essentially anyone. He's got the same stature and same kind of build as Kyle Monangai. Mind you, when I was looking at his profile, I was like, it says 5'9", like 205. I don't believe the 205. And I see him in person at MSG, and I'm like, oh shit, he might be like 210. Like, he's bulky. He's got like the thick, stocky legs. It's the same build that Rutgers is just always going after as a running back. It's like that little bit shorter back, but that little stocky bowling ball type that Kyle Monangai was, that Isaiah Pacheco was. A little bit different running style than those two. He had 3,000 something all-purpose. I have the tweet. 3,200 all-purpose yards. So they are inching more towards guys that are versatile in the pass game, which Kirk has really never done since dating back to, we're looking back to his Western Michigan offense, is when they had a pass catcher that was pretty significant pass catcher out of the backfield. And I think that was Jarvian Franklin, if I recall.
He was a Jersey guy too.
I didn't even know that, but makes sense. 38 touchdowns on the year overall. I think 24 were rushing. 24 rushing. I forget what the exact number was, but anyway, 2-time Max Preps All-American in high school. This kid just kind of does it all. Let me see if I can pull up the tape real quick, just because it's an average 10 yards plus per carry. Like, it's just an extremely impressive highlight tape.
Plus, he is massive physically. He looks college ready today.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing in 2026. Yeah, 2026. I'm trying to think. Jeez, I'm thinking too far down the line. Because with Campbell I shouldn't say probably. With Campbell leaving after 2025, you'll have Antoine Raymond as probably the lead guy, and then you'll sprinkle in this guy with kind of that two-back system. Now, could someone else step up? Of course. Like, you never know. Like, if Ed Guerrero could step up, or I actually am a big fan of Terrell Mitchell, who they got late out of Somerville. I think he'll actually play some snaps down the line too, but it's just he also makes it look significantly easy. I don't know how good this competition is in South Carolina. But like it's just a stiff arm and this and broken tackle and broken tackle.
He's got great contact balance. Like these guys are just literally bouncing off them.
And here you go, like a wide receiver or right in the slot, and it's like,
wow. Not only so that what's so impressive is that about that is not only does he track the ball well, but he has a sense of field awareness where he knows where the two defenders are because immediately after he catches it, he splits the guys and was able to keep running on his route.
I think they're going to start. I shouldn't say it's weird because like they always say stuff to us in the off season, and there's a lot of talk that they're going to try to use the running backs more in the pass game, but they said that a couple off seasons ago too. But when you have a guy like CJ Campbell on campus now, I think you're going to start to extend it more. And then when you get a guy like this on campus next year, you could really just keep going with it, and it just adds such a new wrinkle to your offense where you could put a guy like Antoine Raymond out there and put CJ Campbell in the slot. Or put a guy like Antoine Raymond out there again in 2026 in the backfield and then put this kid in the slot or vice versa. Or run the fucking two-back sets. Like, get a little creative. Get crazy. Especially if you're going to be a run-heavy offense. Go nuts with it.
Yeah, I'd love to see some like pony packages for Rutgers where you have two backs lined up near the quarterback.
Yeah, he's just that little cutback was beautiful too.
Yeah. And I know from you talking to people around the program, they are very, very high on this kid. Talk about what you're hearing about their thoughts on McGill.
Yeah, so put it like this. There's a ton of backs that they've offered. I shouldn't say a ton. For Rutgers standards, there's a good amount of backs that they've offered in the 2026 class. From people I've talked to, they are higher on him than like guys like Savion Hitter, who's like number 36, 35 in the recruiting class right now. Like they are very, very high on this kid. I know this was their top back, and they landed him immediately. And this is just a huge grab for Rutgers. Not only another 4-star, but when you land the top guy on your board, that's just hell. You can't really say anything else.
Look how big this guy is too. Like we talked about.
I know.
He's just insane.
It's the I know he's ripped in the arms, but it's the legs for me. Like that's how you could tell if and that's where you go back to that contact balance you were talking about. It's just able to bounce off.
He's got like a wide. He's got wide everything. It seems. Which is great for
Jay Butler's gonna love working with him in the weight room.
Oh yeah.
So huge get.
It's a huge get there, and things seem to be trending well. I mean, this is shaping up early on to be Rutgers' best class ever. Like to have 2 of your first 4 commits be 4-stars, and you probably have a third 4-star on deck here. Talk about where one of Rutgers' top targets stands with Rutgers. Where it's Rutgers' top target stands with Rutgers, but
Rutgers,
you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Rutgers. Talk about where Chris Hewitt Jr. stands with the Scarlet Knights at the moment.
So we've always been pretty talkative about Chris Hewitt, 4-star, highly ranked kid out of Calvert Hall. We know Rutgers has done pretty decent at Calvert Hall. I wouldn't say great because they've only landed a couple kids out of there.
Isn't Reggie Sutton from there?
Yeah, Reggie Sutton's one. There's a second one. Oh, Tyshawn Fogg. And there was also a walk-on they landed 2 cycles ago. Lester, I forget. Either way, it doesn't matter. Chris Hewitt, his uncle's Matt Hewitt. He's on staff. He's been on staff for 2 regimes now. Anytime you get a coach on staff that is able to be a holdover, it's always a pretty significant thing because it means he's good at his job.
Yeah, the two holdovers I can think of are Eric Josephs, and Matt Hewitt. Those are the only 2 I can think of off the top of my head.
So he's on staff right now, and his dad, Chris Hewitt Sr., it was obviously a Rutgers coach, someone we mentioned recently for open DC spot potentially. Now, let's just rewind. That's nothing to do with his recruitment. Let's just say that. So Rutgers has always been pretty high in Chris Hewitt Jr.'s recruitment. And this visit to campus the other day kind of, I shouldn't say sealed the deal, but it's pretty close to sealing the deal. He's always been very high on Rutgers. He's always been talkative to Rutgers. He's been to Rutgers a lot more than just about every other school. There's a lot of talk that Maryland was going to make a significant push because Maryland's trying to keep all these kids in state. But at the end of the day, it sounds like this is a Rutgers battle to lose, and he plans on deciding before spring, he said, and told me, quote unquote, soon. Do the math there. Well, anytime I'm asking a kid about a specific visit and they're like, hey, I'm going to decide soon, it's like, oh, I wonder where you're going.
Exactly.
So
great news there. Who are some of the other top targets to look out for? I know Kai Pritchard, the offensive lineman from Donovan Catholic, has been mentioned a decent amount as having Rutgers very high on his list. Who are some of the top targets to look out for the rest of the class?
So Daisier Carter's committed. I talked to him the other day, and that article should be up very shortly, if not already, depending on when you're listening to this. Daisier Carter told me he is talking to Jackson Samuels Ford. Interesting scenario there. He is the tight end out of Malvern, I believe.
Yeah, Malvern.
Yeah, so interesting scenario there is that it's a very similar situation to that of Elias Koch and who am I missing? I'm missing someone. Oh, YD Collier, where I've had a future cast in for Jackson Samuels Ford to Penn State for a long time. However, things are starting to shift a bit, and that's going to change. It sounds like I shouldn't say it's going to change. It's pretty close. It's very.
They visited him last week too.
Yes, yeah, they took the hella chopper out there. The Shiano, we got to come up with a cool name for it. The chopper? No, that's stupid. Anyway, besides the point. They're pushing him pretty hard. They think that they have a good shot at him right now, but nothing's of course set in stone. Who's the other one? I had another one. Oh, they're also working on, his name's Laniel Hall per our database, although he goes by Anthony Hall, so doesn't matter. Massive offensive tackle, probably an offensive guard actually, out of Dexter Southfield School up in Massachusetts. He was also on campus this past Saturday. Other names, like you said, Kai Pritchard just released a top 5 recently. Rutgers is on top for that one. I'm actually very close to submitting another future cast there. Not really, I don't even know. I'm very confident. I know talking to people, Boston College is making a significant push. Savon Huggins is the lead recruiter for Boston College in New Jersey, which little Rutgers connection. So other than those two, the Sab brothers are something to monitor closely.
So that's 26 and 27, right?
Yes. Amari Sab is a 26 wide receiver. Xavier Sab is a 27 safety. Now, it's not a lock that they go to the same school, but Amari is feeling the love from Rutgers. Also, both were on campus/MSG this weekend. We know he's been to Rutgers more than just about any other school recently. He's been to Rutgers, I'm looking right now, 1, 2, 3, 4 times since October 12th. So it's a pretty telling sign. He's also visiting Penn State next weekend. So they are both visiting Penn State next weekend. So something to monitor. We know Penn State wants them. We know Georgia was showing some interest originally, but I think that was more Fran Brown, hence why they're showing interest in Syracuse. But those kids have every offer in the book. Now, Amari Sab's a little bit smaller at 5'9", 165, but he's crazy talented. Glassboro, I believe, won the state title, if I recall, at Rutgers recently. So, I mean, very talented program. Someone you really want to get in with. And then the Sab brothers. These are, if you look back at the older brothers, Keon Sab's recruitment, Rutgers stood no shot whatsoever in that one.
IMG, you're not getting him. Like, he transferred from, I think, Williamstown to IMG, and that was good. Yeah.
So now you have these two, local, close to home. They talk to the brother, I'm sure. It's not like Michigan's the same program that recruited Keon Sab originally.
I think he transferred to Alabama too, didn't he?
You're right. He did do that. And that, I mean, go back to that too. Different regime as well. So, so it definitely plays a factor. And I'm sure, I mean, this, like you said, and before, this might end up being the best class ever, to be honest with you.
I'd be shocked if it isn't with how we've started. And the first commit of the class was Gavin Sidwar, and he ended up decommitting. So we've kind of been wondering, QB-wise, where are we going from here? I know they offered Derek Zammit. I don't know if he's high on their board. They offered Peyton Falzone last week, who is a quarterback, but also some schools are looking at him at tight end. Where are things standing with QB recruiting for the 26 class?
Yeah, Derek Zammit, I mean, they reached back out originally when Sidwar decommitted, but it sounds like he's really not that interested either. He feels like he was kind of passed over, and what it is. I think he's an okay quarterback. I think he has a lot of weapons that make him look
A
better.
little undersized too.
Yeah, that's a factor. I mean, if he had a couple more inches, like, okay, then I think he'd have a lot more offers. The fact that he's around 6 foot, listed 6 foot, is a problem. Could it work at the Big Ten level? Sure, it could. We've seen, like, and I know people don't want to hear me mention Penn State, but like Trace McSorley was tiny and he won a Big Ten championship. So it's like, okay, well, you can
Brees
do
back
it.
In the day.
Drew Brees at Purdue, like, you can do it. It's
These
just
are
not
outliers for a reason.
Yeah, it's not ideal. So I don't think Derek Zamet's going to end up being that guy for Rutgers. I think he's going to end up going elsewhere. I know Mississippi State was one that was kind of looking pretty heavily into him, but Peyton Falzone, new quarterback offer, true dual threat. Now, his situation's interesting because a lot of schools were pursuing him at quarterback. A lot of schools were pursuing him at tight end. He's 6'5", 210, 205-ish, around there. He's got the frame that you can add a lot of weight to if you want to make him a tight end. He's a former Virginia Tech commit, was committed from June to November. Ended up decommitting because he wanted to take some more visits. And, of course, most of these schools are just like Rutgers. They don't want their kids taking visits, and rightfully so.
Especially the QB commit.
Yeah, he decommitted and immediately visited Iowa like 2 days later. West Virginia offered. We know Penn State's pursuing, but that's a weird scenario because they originally wanted him as a tight end. Now they want him as a quarterback.
Really?
I think more
do
of
they actually
like
want him as a quarterback though?
I think it's more of like they have a quarterback committed, so it's not like you need him. It's more of like we need a body, so we'll take you in. We'll see what happens. I mean, hell, if you look back, Tyler Warren was a quarterback in high school, and now he's probably number 1 tight end on the draft boards right now. So
yeah, yep.
Man, it's an interesting scenario for them. I don't think he ends up going there. There was some talk early on after the decommitment that he would end up at Penn State, but it sounds very, very unlikely. I shouldn't say very unlikely. It just sounds unlikely at this point because no one wants to be a QB2 in a class, and let alone he wants to prove he's a quarterback, and he's really improved his quarterback skills and mechanics over the past year. If you asked me a year ago what's his better position, I would have told you tight end. If you asked me last week or today, it's up for debate. I think he's starting to emerge more as a quarterback, and that dual threat ability I find interesting because Kirk went from a true dual threat to now Ethan. I guess you can consider a dual threat to an extent. Like, he has the smarts and ability to run. He's just not fast at all or mobile, really.
Yeah, I'd say he was functionally very mobile. Like he was able to, escape pressure when needed. He was able to pick up those easy 6 yards when needed, slide. So yeah, he's got good functional mobility. Is there any chance they get back involved with Sidwar, especially if they get Hewitt? I know he's close with him, or that bridge is napalmed. No coming back from it.
Kind of did it to himself, to be honest. I know everyone's like obsessed like with him, which I get it because he was committed for so long. Spoke very highly of Rutgers, but I don't think he's a good fit for the program, just to put it like that. Like he's got maybe nice. He's got an ego, put it like that.
Got it. Covered a lot of recruiting stuff, so hopefully that has fed the beast. I know this recruiting stuff has what got me hooked on Rutgers, so love chatting it up anytime we can mention it. Now we got to take our medicine here. Let's talk about this Scarlet Knights basketball team. Falls to 10-10 after a top 10 loss, 81-74 at MSG to the Michigan State Spartans. In a game that, wasn't really even that close in the second half. I mean, there was a few runs they went on, but this team, they just kind of can't get everything moving in the right direction. They've had like 2 games where everything kind of felt right. It was Columbia, and that was Nebraska, and even in Nebraska, it was kind of like it was just the Dylan and Ace show. They just had both A++ games, along with some role players hitting open shots.
Yeah,
I think at this point, if we're talking hospital parlance, where we were talking about life support, we were talking about critical condition, I think we'd be having the doctor would ask us what our religion was at this point, and have the priest come up to the room and administer last rites. What a disappointing season for a lot of reasons for Rutgers basketball. I talked about this on one of the Discords. Like, this is a season that hardcore fans got incredibly hyped up for several years. They saw this coming last year. They dealt with a shitty season in 23-24 because they saw Dylan and Ace on the horizon. And it re-engaged casual Rutgers fans who they had an office buddy maybe who's like, hey, Rutgers like, what's going on with them? They got these 2 top 5 guys. Like, I saw this on Sports Center, blah blah blah. Even like casual metro area sports fans were interested in Rutgers basketball for the first time maybe ever, and like, of course, like it's the one of the laughing stocks of college basketball this season. The fact that we couldn't produce a functional, decent team around 2 superstars. I think this is going to be tough for the fan base to recover from unless they go on some miraculous run here in February where, they win 9 out of 10. They, get to the finals of the Big Ten championship. I don't see that happening, but that's really the only path at this point to getting to the NCAA tournament. I'm like apoplectic. I can't like we've gone through all the stages of grief with this basketball team this season where we were just so high coming into the season. I think we saw some shakiness even in those early non-con games, but it wasn't until like Kennesaw State and Ohio State where reality kind of punched us in the face where it's like, oh, this team is actually not very good for a lot of reasons. What's your take on the game? You were there in the building, and where do you think we can go from here the rest of the season?
For starters, I'm going to talk positive real quick. That was a hell of a showing from the Rutgers fan base between the train, which shout out to whoever said my name twice, the 2 people that did. Like, just walking down the train because it was packed on the way there, and I'm looking left and right. I'm like, holy shit! Like, and my buddy Seth was with me, came to the game too, and he was just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, and he's not a college basketball guy by any means. He's all NBA and all this. And like, we were going to the NBA game, the Nets game after the Rutgers game, and he's just like, I didn't realize you guys have like this much of a diehard fan base. And I'm like, yeah, dude. And that's just the train. Wait till we get there. Watch. And like, he went and he was like, holy shit! Like, and that place was packed with red. I was extremely impressed. They sold what does it hold? 18,000? 17,000?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
So I think if it holds 18,000, I think they had 17,000 Rutgers fans. Wow. There was a small contingent of green, don't get me wrong. And, of course, they put it right next to press row, so I had to hear all that shit all day. Go green, go white. I don't give a shit. Like, leave me alone. Anyway. So, yeah, I mean, very, very cool atmosphere. I love the Garden game. I don't care what anyone says. Do it every year. Like, it is the greatest thing. And if the team's good like that, well, not good, but if the team has superstars, or just if the team's good in general, they're gonna have a good crowd and they're gonna show up. You're gonna get better. You're selling out an 8,000 seat arena right now. You don't think they want more people there? So it's like, I think that you do it at least once a year, maybe once every other year. It's just such a great environment, and I can't rave about it enough. And plus, it's MSG, the Mecca. It's so cool. And I hate the Knicks. This is coming from a guy who despises that franchise. Like, and it's just such a cool arena to go play at. Anyway, besides the point. Team-wise, team stinks. If you told me Jordan Dirkhack was going to put up a 20 bomb, I would have called your bluff right away. Yep. I would have bet heavily against that. The man was Kobe Bryant, and I said it to Alec before the game, and I wrong prediction to say, but I was like, someone like I bet if I had to bet, it's going to be Ace or Dylan. One of them's going to come out. And once the lights are on, MSG, Garden, it's like a LeBron type moment, a Kobe type moment, an MJ type moment. These guys come to the Garden and they just go off. That was Jordan Dirkhack's going off game. Like, holy shit. And he still made some mistakes, like the one stupid full court pass he tried to thread the needle and it just wasn't there.
That was bad. Those things stop momentum too. Like I think we got I think that was like a 3 that went off the heel and he started the transition.
That might have been his only mistake of the game, though, which is crazy because he played lights out, and I've never seen him shoot like that from 3 either, which is wild. The rest of the team, Ace just forced so much shit, and then like he started out so hot early on. I think he had the one 3 off the wing, and then he had another in the corner. I shouldn't say the corner because it was only 2, but just like I'm like, he puts up the stupidest fucking shots. And then he hits the one, and like it's like a fadeaway against 2 defenders, double teamed, and it's like boom, and it hits. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know what to say anymore. But then he proceeds to miss like the next like 8 or 9, and it's bad. Yep. Layton Somerville puts on the blinders every time the ball's in his hands and just decides to shoot the most wackiest mid-range shit I've ever seen in my life. Dylan Grant had a solid game, I thought. He continues to prove why he should have been playing from probably day one. And I get it, maybe because he missed his senior season of high school basketball. I mean, kid hasn't played high school basketball since like EYBL in June 2024, July, whatever. So it's been a minute for him. So I kind of get that. Jeremiah Williams has regressed so much. Dylan, like I'm so confused by that situation because we saw it in pregame. Like when he was taking jumpers in the corner, you could tell he wasn't all there. Like when you put the bend in your feet, like these guys don't, like you don't jump like fully on a jump shot. I know it sounds ironic to say out loud, but like you could see when he was bending, like his one foot would bend up and his other just would stay like platformed. And I'm like, oh shit, he can't even use it really. So he goes out there, he puts up 6 points, and I'm like, only a couple minutes left in the game, and I'm like, Dylan's still like the third leading scorer with 6 points. Like, this is bad. Obviously that changed a little bit because Grant ended up hitting another 3. I think Somerville had another bucket, so it was always the fourth leading scorer when it was all said and done. But he didn't play at all in the second half, or he did. He played. I think he might have started the second half. I forget what it was, or he didn't play at all. I forget. Either way, he barely played in that second half. So that was strange. Why the fuck did you burn the red shirt of Bryce Dortch at that point? Like, I get it. You need bodies. Stop making this 12-man rotation you're trying to go with. Like, it's just not working. You got to find a solid 8, maybe 9, and just run with it. Like, you put Zach Martini out there. He continues to regress every week, it seems like. He has, like, 1 good game and then 5 bad games. And 1 good game and 5 bad games. 0 of 5, and they're open shots. You got to nail the threes. They shot 33% from the field, 30% from 3, out-rebounded, and they were just getting abused on switches. Like, the minute Michigan, I don't know why it took, or Michigan State, sorry. I don't know why it took them this long. The minute that second half started, they abused that paint against Rutgers, and they were having switch after switch after switch. We're watching Durkak guard big men. We're watching Jeremiah Williams try to guard big men because they would just keep switching, and Somerville would have to end up switching to the guard instead of staying down low with the big man. And it's just, and you can't leave them open because they were taking threes too. Now, were they hitting? Fuck it, let them take them. They weren't really hitting them, so who cares? Instead, they were letting them get right to the basket, right in the paint, and just basically abuse Rutgers. Their bench put up 50 points. They had 42 points in the paint. Like, you couldn't, it's not even like they shot all that well. Like, I don't want to say they could have beat them, but they had a shot to beat them if they just hit a couple of shots here and there. Just there's zero offense. And they run that fucking double horn set, and they run it like in the worst way possible. Like, it just didn't work at all. Oh, God. And they tried running a bunch of plays at the elbow, and it's just like they don't really run all that much offense. And there's no movement either. We're playing 5 wide with Ace getting double teamed, and they're just leaving Somerville open, and then this motherfucker goes and takes 3. And I'm like, stop. Like, oh, God. I rant over, but like, damn, man. Like, it's just mind-blowing how bad it is.
It's tough to watch. They have the next game at Northwestern on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. That's on BTN before they have a 2-game homestand where they play Michigan on Saturday, and then they play Illinois on Wednesday. 2 ranked teams. Mm-hmm. It's a tough stretch coming up.
Another national game too on Saturday. So another national TV game where everyone gets to watch the world's worst offense. Sorry, but it's so depressing. Like, it drives me nuts.
Something and then like,
go on. Sorry.
I was gonna say I was gonna transition there, but if you got something else,
and then like I forgot to mention Tyson Acuff. Like, that's not Tyson Acuff. I don't know who that guy is, but that's not him. Like, I went back and someone said it. They're like, that's not the same guy I saw last year on tape. And I go back and watch his tape, and I'm like, that broken foot really fucked him up. Like, he is just not the same player whatsoever. I know Pikel said it after game 6 or 7. It's like, like Acuff's finally starting to be able to dunk again. And I'm like, I kind of feel that because, like, I don't want to brag, but I used to be able to touch rim in high school. And then I had I had ACL surgery. And then it was like, holy shit, I can barely touch net now. Like, so I feel it. But, like, when that injury happened, that really cooked you with any type of third scorer. But I also didn't see the regression of all these guys either coming. Like, Jeremiah Williams, I didn't think was going to be this bad. He just looks lost out there.
Yeah,
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, it's just such a bummer of a season. But good news. Talked about it at the beginning. Wrestling secured its first top 10 victory since 2019, defeating the Fighting Illini.
Yes.
They won 16-15 on criteria. in one of the most exciting finishes you'll ever see in college wrestling. Came down to heavyweight. Yara got a late takedown to win the bout and sudden victory. So big shout out to Goody and to the wrestling program. They also had basically the LeBron James of high school wrestling on campus on Friday for a visit. He's got a couple of his close friends on the team. Things are trending pretty well for Rutgers, I'd say, given the competition they're up against there. Do you have any kind of update? I know you're uniquely qualified to talk about this because he's also a top target of Penn State. Do you have any update on where things stand with Bo Bassett's recruitment?
Yeah, I talked with a Penn State guy about this, and we do a Penn State pod. I actually posted on the Rutgers boards the other day because we did a preview of the Rutgers match, and he actually had Rutgers winning a match. He didn't have the right match because we thought Shulver was going to be that guy, but it was Peterson. So shout out to Peterson for that one.
Big start to the match too.
Yeah, huge win there for Peterson. But going back to Bo Bassett, we talked a little bit about his recruitment, and as much as Penn State wants him, it sounds like Rutgers might be the favorite right now. You mentioned his close friends, Colin Harar, on the team currently. Brant Harar, the brother, is going to be on the team next year. Yeah, next year. So I know he's got a top 7. It's like Virginia Tech, Iowa, Rutgers.
I think he's close with that Nihil Perkins kid too.
Yes,
I think they wrestled at club together or something.
Yeah, they're all very close with one another. I know Steve Michich and someone else on the staff is very close with him. I forget which exact coach it was, but it sounds like Rutgers might be the favorite for Bo Bassett, which is a pretty big. You get him, we're talking Suriano-esque.
Bigger than that.
Like, yeah, probably out of high school. And this is out of high school, mind you. I know they got Suriano from a transfer. But I don't want to say like you're going to win another title, but damn, like it's hard not to promise that when you have Bo Bassett.
If Bo Bassett doesn't win at least one national title in his college career, it'd be shocking. I honestly, you could write in pencil his over/under for national titles probably at 1.5.
Yeah,
he's that level of a talent. I think Aiden Smith is the guy he's close with, actually. I don't know where I got Nihil Perkins from. I think he's a football recruit.
Yeah, either way. Yes, that's the correct name. Aiden Smith. He's very close with him.
So great news there. That is all we got for you guys today. Kind of covered a wide range of topics.
Talking about a Fordham DB.
Yeah, I don't know. My brain's just melted from this weekend.
It's ranked pretty high, actually, for Fordham DB. But anyway, yeah.
I'm hoping we have an update on the DC search soon.
Very annoying.
Wish we had more. It has been frustratingly quiet as the carousel turns more and more. There's only more teams now that are looking for a position. Rutgers has to be behind the likes of Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oklahoma at this point. Like it's annoying, like you said.
Although they're probably ahead of, like, say, Virginia Tech and someone else. Yeah. I can't really think on top of my head who else needs one, but I think you actually posted it on the boards. There's a link somewhere with what DC openings there are.
Yeah, that's obviously changed because Penn State is set to hire Jim Knowles. The announcement is forthcoming, but that
just happened actually like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say congratulations to them because,
No, I mean, it's a power move, don't get me wrong. But it's amazing, and I said this on our boards because our boards love to talk about everything. It's amazing to me how it's taken, like, for Ohio State specifically this last offseason. It's like it took your rival winning in order for you to invest in the team.
Yep.
And then it took Penn State watching 2 rivals win in order to invest in a team.
Yep.
What is it going to take at all these schools? Like, you need your rival to win in order for you to, like, invest. Like, if that's the case, what the fuck are the Giants doing? Like,
that's a story for another day.
I know. Did you see? I got to bring it up. Did you see the Empire State Building? What the hell was that? I want to tweet this, but I was against it because an FBI agent's going to be at my house if I tweet this. But I can say it on the pod because I don't think they'll listen to the pod. If they just wait until we get back to the NFC Championship and win it, that Rocky statue is going to have some messed up things happen to it. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, you could try. It seems like that is not the thing that works for teams, but
I know. I saw
go
that.
Birds, Super Bowl, berth 2 times in 3 years. We got to slay the dragon. Everybody is I feel like nobody wants to root for the Eagles, but I also think that people want to see the Chiefs win 3 straight, even less than they want the Eagles to win. So a divided country for sure with regards to the Super Bowl. But that is all we got for you guys today. I want to thank you once again for listening. For me and Richie, this has been another edition of the Knight Report podcast. Signing off.